health equity is not just about having affordable care that is available for everybody. It is also about understanding the demographics and making sure that individuals have access to patient education irrespective of where they are, because that is a starting point. And if we are able to do that in a seamless way, we strongly believe that it automatically improves the awareness and adherence in their medication journey. And so that's something that we are passionate about, and we strongly believe that technology will not only reduce the expenses, but in turn will help individuals to start the journey through awareness and education.
My name's Sabrina Ramanov. Super excited today to be speaking with Vinod Subramanian. He's the Chief Operating and AI Officer at MedAdvisor Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about personalized patient engagement, the role of pharmacies in healthcare, and how AI is playing a role in all of that.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah, let's start off with your background. So how did you get into healthcare and specifically MedAdvisor?
My journey started as an intern in a technology company, right? And it was focused on data and an appreciation for all aspects of technology and different functions within the company around sales, marketing, finance, business development, and eventually in technology. And within technology around data and how to use data. And this was at least 2 decades ago. And that took me to many other technology companies from a management consulting and technology consulting point of view. And eventually got me to McKesson, where I was part of the Relay Health division, which is focused on connecting payers, providers with patients, and an appreciation for the fact that there are many industries that deliver significant value, but there are very few professions and industries that touch people's life and have an impact in it. And I think it left a mark, right, in terms of the industry, in the way the work is happening. Even though my job is very focused on product data, technology like AI, it is very satisfying at the end of the day when you have an impact on people's lives. That includes people like me and you. So that's what got me into the industry and the profession.
I love that. I have a lot of family members in healthcare as well, from nursing to clinical research to pharmaceuticals. And so it's an amazing industry. So can you talk a little bit more about MedAdvisor and specifically your role as Chief AI Officer over there?
MedAdvisor is a global company, a leader in pharmacy-driven patient engagement. We are based in US and Australia. Our customers are in US, Australia, and New Zealand. We are a publicly listed company out of the Australian Stock Exchange. We have some amazing talent across the world. The journey started from engaging patients differently, right? In different markets. In Australia, we have 95% of the pharmacy market in terms of engaging patients through pharmacies. In US, our network of pharmacies are north of 50%. But the common engagement that we have, right, in terms of elevating patients is through pharmacies and engaging and leveraging data to help individuals manage their medication and medication journey, and tools to enable them to manage the health the way they want it, right? So that's where our products and solutions are focused on. In US, we predominantly focus on pharma-sponsored programs that we take to patients through pharmacies on medication awareness and medication adherence. In Australia, we have a patient app that enables patients to engage with pharmacies in terms of ordering their medication, refilling it, and also doing other aspects of pharmacy commerce. And we also have the backend platform that enables pharmacists to support patients, especially in-store systems and things like that, right? So that's where we are. Yeah, we leverage data to personalize that engagement rather than being transactional. So that's the last piece.
Yeah, and I'd love to dive into that a little bit more. How specifically are you using AI to improve medication adherence or improve the patient experience overall?
The value of AI, in my view, while there's many more proof points needed, it's got significant proof points already developed on the use of data, especially healthcare data, in identifying patterns, trends, and also in understanding the past. So where we use data is to segment data, so that way we understand the patient's journey, and within that patient's journey, their medication journey. So that way we can understand the behavior, we understand the disease aspects of the individual. So that way we can make the communication to help the patient manage their medication better. So we have significant amount of TV ads that come on medications around headache, around allergies and things like that. But in this case, we focus it specific to the individual. For example, if I am focused on diabetes care, it makes sense for the communication that comes to me focused on the medication I am taking, rather than focused on some generic information that may not be useful. When I get specific information on how to manage my medication in terms of dosage, refills, refill reminders, and also if I forget to take my medication, what to do with that, it is quite relevant. And in turn, it helps me to improve my health because I'm on top of my medication, makes it simple. And when I'm on top of my medication management aspects, it automatically improves outcomes, right? So that's how we think about leveraging technology in a way where it elevates the outcomes for individuals and improves their experience in engaging with pharmacies and managing their health, right? So that is just a starting point. The other value that we see is, irrespective of the doctor you see, irrespective of the medication that gets prescribed, improvement in health only comes when the medication is taken. And for that, right, it starts with first education, patient education, and then the patient education translates to awareness. Awareness improves adherence, and that's only way we can improve outcomes, right? So irrespective of how care happens, where it happens, the last mile in terms of influencing a patient's health, in improving outcomes for patients, actually goes through pharmacy. So we leverage data again to personalize and hyper-personalize, because for us to have somebody continue to take medication, improve their health, there are behavioral aspects that needs to be changed. And I think the data allows us to think about that and differently engage patients and be very precise in that engagement.
For those who may not be as familiar with healthcare, can you kind of describe what this looked like before AI and data? So what would it typically take for somebody to adhere to their medication on a daily basis? What tools do they have available? How manual was the process? And how is that kind of transformed with the use of AI and technology and automation?
It's a very important question as well, because in many ways, while we talk about digital today, right, with the aging population, they're very familiar with non-digital tools. So engagement is not just about digital tools, right? It's also about engaging differently through hybrid tools. So in absence of technology, or when the technology was used in just dispensing, the engagement for patients in terms of raising awareness and adherence was directly interaction with the pharmacist. And that's typically 8 to 5 in any time zone. Now that brings different challenges, right? If you think about it, you have to either call the pharmacist or you have to go into a pharmacy to get information. It takes time. And sometimes we don't have the time. In absence of that, when you're picking up your medication, you get a pamphlet of your medication information. And when you have 2 or 3 pages of documents, when you have specific information needed, you can't get that specificity, right? So there's a lot of missed opportunities, in my view, in that way of engaging. Now, fast forward, irrespective of where you are in the spectrum of population, we all are time poor. And as such, we need information on demand, irrespective of the time. And there's also shortage of pharmacists and doctors for that matter. So we need information that's available on demand, specific and relevant to us, in a way where we can engage, right? So that's where I think over a period of time, the industry and the healthcare in general has realized that personalizing the care is quite important, right? It's not just for engagement, also at a level where personalizing your therapies, right, has become a new model of treating, especially in things like oncology, rare diseases, right? Personalization aspects of that is critical, because you and I are human beings, but our molecular makeup is very different. Our age, ethnicity is different as well, right? So we have to account for that to make sure that the therapy and the care is catered to the individual rather than a general population, right? So that's where the shift has happened significantly from how it was before to how it is.
And how are patients engaging with this technology? Is it in the form of a chat bot? So if I have questions about my particular medication and the pharmacist is not available, like what does the tool look like that I'm able to use to get some of those answers, get some of that education?
It's actually a broad set of tools today, right? It starts with individuals having a chat, a two-way chat with a pharmacy professional. It starts with an in-person interaction. It can also be a chat bot. It can be an AI avatar that is trained on the specific medication information, approved content, so that when you have a specific question about, can I take grapefruit with my medication, it can clearly say, no, you cannot. Or it can say, you can probably take it after 6 hours. Or if it is about missing your medication and you have a question on, hey, I missed the medication today, what do I do to catch up? It will either guide you in the right way to either catch up or engage a doctor to follow up on your condition. I think those are all things that is evolved. The other piece that of evolution is the chat channels, right? Because we also get notifications. We are all mobile friendly today. There are many ways of engaging. It is not just phone. It is not just chat bots or avatars. You can also do it through social media, as long as it is secure in a way where it is individual information not getting shared broadly, right? So I think there are many channels that we have today that enable that engagement in elevating the experience.
Yeah, I imagine it's non-trivial, especially in a regulated industry like healthcare, because you're talking about training each chatbot to make sure it provides accurate, relevant information. All of its suggestions need to be approved, and it's all regulated. So can you talk about what that process was like? How did you have the conviction to go that direction, train all of these different chatbots, and how did you overcome kind of those regulatory hurdles for your industry?
Yeah, I think the regulation is fast evolving. In US, FDA just recently came out with some specific aspects of how products that are using AI should be accounting for in the responsible use of AI, especially in patient engagement. Our focus has been what are the things that we need to do to elevate the patient experience and enabling them to manage the health the way they want it, right? So that has been our core mission. And the vision was how do we use technology to enable that vision? And the path that we took was while the regulations are still evolving, what is the approach that we take with patient security and safety as a core North Star? And that enabled us to look at, okay, the starting point is HIPAA. The second point that we want to do was we are ISO 27001 compliant. We want to look at that aspects of information risk, compliance management to see how does it help us in our products and technology that we take it to the market. The third piece that now we are looking at is with the evolving landscape of regulation, there is a certification and framework called ISO 42001, which enables us to look at how we develop AI and AI solutions and products, and how can we account for some of the risks, some of the things around data security and privacy incorporated into the products, right? So that's another piece that we're doing. And of course, right, we also partner with an entity called Ben, that is a partner for us in developing a conversational AI and Gen AI core foundational platform. And we train that, which is a healthcare specific LLM. We train that using general approved content. So that way, when we engage, we don't have to go through the challenges that typically things like ChatGPT has to go through, right? It's secure. It's completely isolated. It is not in the public domain, and it is secure in a way where it doesn't go to the internet to get some information. It just gets random information. It's sending and responding to information based on approved content from FDA or the pharma on the medication.
Just on the technical side, is that an open source healthcare LLM that you then fine tune for different use cases or medications?
It's not an open source. The technology that we're using is something that has been specifically built for healthcare, and it enables us to focus on being very specific to healthcare. It's almost like a healthcare LLM developed.
Okay, that's awesome. I didn't even realize that was an option. What have been some of your biggest challenges in developing this and rolling this out? What are your top of mind concerns? Obviously, we've talked about regulation as one of them. I'm also curious about the patient experience. What are patients' reactions interacting with this new AI technology? Are they receptive to it? Are they skeptical of it?
Yeah, I think the most important thing in my view has been driving adoption in a way where we account for the standard concerns that come to anyone, right, using AI today. One is the aspects of security, privacy, concerns around patient safety, right? So that's the number one. So I think we have a partner who's done some significant work with FDA and also done work in testing and validating and creating proof points, including working with some of the top providers like Johns Hopkins and Research Institute in the country. So that is the number one. The number two thing that we focus on is how do we enable it in a way where the patient experience is elevating and very relevant. And the reason I say that is when an individual engages with the product, the important thing is for them to get the relevant information in short order. Pointed question that gets pointed response. And the only way that can happen is if the technology is quite catered and personalized. The third piece is how do we make sure that when the individual walks away, they get the questions answered, and the next time the patient engages, we are aware of the questions that the patient asked previously, right? So that way we can build on it and help them in their journey, right? So those are the things that we focus on in making sure that we continuously learn, we improve that, and we engage, right? And also from an outcome point of view, while the patient is at the core of the beneficiary of all these services, we deliver that through different ways. We engage through pharma to understand the patient from a lens. We also engage through pharmacy to understand it from a different lens. And I think those aspects are also very critical. Another reason why the direct-to-patient models is something that pharma is championing, because I think each individual's needs are changing significantly, right, on a day-to-day basis. So again, right, we look at to say, how does technology become an enabler and an intent amplifier of what we're looking to do eventually, right? And then makes it easy for us to deliver the value.
And it sounds like it's been a really successful initiative so far. Like, what are some other projects or trends you're seeing in the broader digital health landscape that you might think about tackling?
The aspect of patient engagement is not just unique for pharmacy or pharma. It's the same aspect that payers engage because they want to focus on value-based care, quality of the care. The patient engagement is equally important for them. So that's another area that we are focusing on to see how do we expand the patient engagement across multiple segments within healthcare. with different constituents. The other piece that we are looking to expand is specifically on the specialty care and specialty drugs, because while the care patterns and the journey is slightly different, it's still patient engagement at the core. And we see a lot more demand for specialty drugs in individuals on specialty drugs. Also, with the aging population, polypharmacy is another big piece that we see, because now individuals are getting their medication from multiple pharmacies. And as such, right, you still need to know how you're taking the medication, in what order, the dosage, right? So that's equally important. And the third and the most important piece, right, is health equity is not just about having affordable care that is available for everybody. It is also about understanding the demographics and making sure that individuals have access to patient education irrespective of where they are, because that is a starting point. And if we are able to do that in a seamless way, we strongly believe that it automatically improves the awareness and adherence in their medication journey. And so that's something that we are passionate about. And we strongly believe that technology will not only reduce the expenses, but in turn will help individuals to start the journey through awareness and education.
And I imagine it can help families too, because it's oftentimes it's not just the patient, there's a caregiver or multiple caregivers involved, multiple types of medications involved. And so how are you seeing kind of AI help with the collaborative care?
AI is well suited when it comes to patient education. You made the point, very relevant point about caregivers. With the expanding aging population, the individual who is caring for the care may not be the individual who needs the care. It could very well be somebody in the family. And the home care is also expanding significantly. And the needs to support that system is also evolving, because now you're not educating the patient, you're actually educating a care who's in turn taking care of a patient, or you're educating an individual who's responsible for delivering the care or taking care of the individual. And I think those needs are a little different. And it has to be, going back to the point, right? It has to be in a way where it's snackable, it's consumable, and it's consumable easy enough to have a meaningful impact. And I think that's another thing that we look at to say, how do we do engagement in a bit-sized, snackable way that enables us to take action? Because again, we are all human beings, and some of us enjoy learning and reading a lot, but most of us, after like 2 or 3 sentences, I will lose certain things, right? So AI enables us to bring it together in a short, crisp way, so that way you capture the attention, and then it makes it easy for us to then be very precise in terms of responding in a very short form, enables us to engage differently.
My biggest use case for AI is probably just getting help with those quick tasks here and there. And it's amazing what you can do. I made a video the other day where I was just sitting in a dentist's office, and within 10 minutes, I was able to get a lot knocked out while in the waiting room. Stuff that would have taken, sit down at a computer traditionally 2 hours doing a lot of stuff manually, but I can knock it out within 10 minutes on my phone in the waiting room of a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment. So it's really amazing what's possible now in terms of productivity and learning and education. Yes. So that's definitely really exciting about AI. Is there anything else you wanted to also talk about as well as we wrap up the podcast?
I think the pharmacies and the pharmacists, right, who are also delivering care, they need tools to enable them to focus on what they are passionate about, that is patient care. And I think that's another, going back to the point you made. There are significant tools today with proof points that has automated some of the pharmacy workflows and pharmacy operations significantly, whether it's refill reminders, whether it's digital content for medication and med guides, whether it's dispensing automation, registering for various things that are happening around immunizations. All that is things that can be automated because they're all backend systems, and they are adding tremendous value. Next decade is going to be a journey where I strongly believe that technology is going to definitely improve the experience of not just the patient, but also the caregivers, care providers, in many cases, whether they are on the health provider side, the hospital side, on the payer side, or on the pharmacy side. It's also enabling pharma to significantly accelerate drug development, clinical trials in many ways, and enable to be very precise, right, in the way they are engaging patients. The direct-to-patient model is going to become a big deal and definitely be relevant as a model to engage patients. The future is promising, but it also brings with it a responsibility for entities in the mix to engage patients with the patient safety as a North Star, so that way it is relevant in the experience overall, right? So that's the beauty of using technology today and in the future.
So for audience members who are listening, run companies, and are thinking about how to incorporate AI in an ethical and responsible way, how do you tackle that question in terms of governance and frameworks?
The key things that we look at are, how do we understand and explain what we are doing? If we can explain that very clearly, then we can understand how decisions are getting made. We look for things around bias and hallucination, because that's natural. And again, that ties to the data that we get. So we look for data that we get to make sure that the data is not biased in any way, because that's core to how the features work. The third piece is we look at access and look at how the access is consistent across the board and enabling people to get the access the same way, right, irrespective of where they are. And then the fourth piece that we look at is data privacy and data security, essentially HIPAA compliance, and making sure that we are following practices that are focused on making sure that we are understanding the risks, we are complying with the policies, both internal policies and industry policies and regulations. And then the last and the most important piece is how does this all piece work together? Because you can individually look at pieces and say, this is good, third piece is good, and fourth piece is good. You have to make sure that all these work together and there is an oversight and making sure that, okay, the intention translated to outcome and the process that we took to develop that accounted for all that, and we tested and validated it. Then I think when we release products and technology to the market, it enables us to be comfortable to explain that and articulate saying, here's how we're doing it. Because if we are not explain to ourselves, we can't explain to somebody else.
The pathway you've laid out is where many companies and enterprises want to get to. And they're somewhere along that journey, but there isn't that much best practices widely available yet. So typically when I'll talk to a bigger kind of company, they'll be asking, well, what is that company doing? What best practices have they learned? What framework are they using? And kind of related to that, I was really curious about your combination role as a chief operating and AI officer. Number one, are you seeing that more commonly happening in companies where they're realizing AI deserves its own unique attention and therefore there should be a new role created for it, especially in healthcare? Or do you feel that companies are still kind of lagging behind?
I think the reason why company has a role for a specific one, whether it's a chief data officer or an AI officer or a strategy officer, it's to highlight the fact that that function is important for the company and for its customers. So that is the number one thing. And I see that many companies are putting focus on that, because where focus goes, energy flows automatically. And you do need somebody who is thinking and living and breathing about that every day. That's the reason why many companies are doing it. And I see that in the market today, across the board, not just in healthcare. There is an interesting aspect of AI. Innovation is not just about impact. It's actually about how to do even things that we do today differently. So you have to have the mindset. It's not just all about innovation, cutting edge. Even simple things that we do today can be innovative. It's just a different way of doing it, right? So you need to have that mindset. So in my role as a chief operating officer, it's not just about leveraging technology. I'm responsible for product engineering, internal IT, information security, and the business operations of the company. When I look at that, there is efficiency to be gained in every aspect of what we do. If we continue to do the same thing, you'll get the same results. If we don't want that, you have to ask the question, how can I do things differently? And today, AI enables us to have tools to do things differently. Not always it's going to work, but it gives us options. Now, whether it's relevant for us or not is the first question we need to ask. We cannot say, I want to use AI and then look for problems to solve. You have to do the other way, right? You have to think about what is the unmet need and what's the problem you're solving for, what's the definition of that, and then see whether AI is the right tool or what's the right tool to solve for. And in our journey, what we see is, since we are a technology company, there's a higher likelihood that we can adopt AI in many aspects of what we do. But even in our case, we don't leverage AI everywhere, right? We use AI in areas we specifically want to leverage around data, and also in terms of rules engine, because in the past, we would define rules engine in a way where it's reactionary, because we see a path, so we define rules. Now, the new one is that the rules are changing every day. So how do you catch up with the rules in a way where you make decisions in a platform based on how rules are changing? For that, you cannot be doing things how it was done a year ago or 2 years ago. So you have to have a system that can understand decisions we make today and on the fly change those rules. A good example, right, is today, right, the maps is a great example to articulate that. Now, I'm going from point A to point B. If there's a traffic jam, Google Maps gives me two options, this option, this option. Now, if it's always doing the same thing, I would be going the same way all the time and stuck in the traffic. So it's the same thing, because the rules are changing there on the fly. It's looking at the patterns.
If an accident happens,
happens, right? And other drivers feeding information and saying, don't go this way, go this way. So that's the way that we look at technology. And that's how I feel that the role is evolving. Interestingly, before the AI role, there was roles focused on data analytics. And now the next trend is, what do you do with the data, the insights you get with the data? And AI is enabling that to get it in a way where it's actionable. So I see a lot of roles where it's a combination role where it's also about operating, it's also about innovating, but using technology as a way to drive that innovation. So that's where I do see that trend a lot more in the market.
I'm curious if you're already experimenting with more agentic workflows where they can dynamically plan based on real-time, up-to-date information, but also how do you balance that kind of flexible technology with the industry you're in, whether it's healthcare and you do want a level of predictability, reliability, making sure everything's within guardrails in compliance.
We have not started the process of agentic AI, but the area that we will look at doing as part of our roadmap is looking at how to help our internal customer support team. Because we get requests both for our internal help desk and also when we engage with customers on simple things around login, password resets, accessing our systems and things like that. We feel that a lot of how-to questions, best practices that we get requests from can be handled by an agentic agent that can already give pre-canned and predefined information. And that can significantly improve efficiency as well. So that's an area that we will probably invest in sometime, right? Probably next year. But I think this year we've been focusing predominantly on patient engagement tools, our platform, where we can leverage AI and look at how to elevate the overall experience more than anything else, leveraging data again.
That I love that it's real world impact. We're not talking about just a project that's theoretical. I actually brought this into production. It's impacting thousands, if not millions of people's lives in healthcare. Especially as I get older, I realize it's the number one most important thing. Absolutely number one. And so really, really just commend the work that you're doing. Thanks so much for taking the time to join my podcast and share how you guys are thinking about AI and deploying AI to solve really big real world problems.
No, it's been great. And thank you for inviting me. Really enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to having many more of these.